Hello friends, my name is Anil Poddar and today I am going to explain safety and responsibilities of engineers. So let us go to contents. Definition of safety, definition of risk, factors which influence the perception of the risk, collegiality and loyalty, authority, confidentiality and occupational. So next we'll go for the what we call as definition of safety. Now, how you define safety is safety can be defined as the freedom from damage, injury, or risk. So a person is said to be purely safe only when he knows that when he goes to a place he cannot be harmed. So that place you can call it as a safe place. So safety can be defined as the freedom from damage, injury, or risk. So it can be also defined as a product or a project is safe with respect to a person or group at a given time. That is, if you are working in a project, the project is said to be safe only when you know what are the risks involved in that project. So whatever the products you do, it can't be 100% safe. So if suppose the risk done in the manufacturing the product is 20%, so the safety will be around 80%. So the formula is given by probability of safety equal to 1 minus probability of risk. Next we'll go for what called as definition of risk. Now how you define risk? No, risk can be defined as possibility of suffering harm or loss. So risk means it's not guaranteed that you will be harmed. There is a possibility of you may cause a harm or there is no guarantee that you will cause a harm. Example, suppose a second-hand electric heater when purchased was alright. Now suppose if you purchase a second-hand electric heater, it is a risk that it may give a electric shock and damage the human. There is a possibility, not sure, but there is a possibility. So there are different methods to determine the risk. So we do the testing for safety. So first one is testing on the functions of safety components. So we provide some testing functions on the components which are brought. Next one is destructive testing. What is this destructive testing is? It is testing is done till the component fails. So we go on testing the product or the component. So once it fails, we come to know about the risk involved in that component. Now third one is prototype testing. Now the formula for finding the risk is given by risk equal to probability of occurrence into consequence in magnitude. So consequence in magnitude is nothing but how much amount of risk that has been occurred. So next one we will go for factors which are influencing the perception of risk. So there are various factors that are influencing the perception. First one is probability of risk. That is how much amount of risk that can occur. Second one is consequences of the risk. That is how the risk has happened. That is either through a physical damage or death of people or property loss or loss of money. So how the risks will happen. Third one is voluntariness. That is for thrill and amusement or under compulsion involuntariness. That is voluntary a person itself takes the risk. Fourth one is the magnitude, that is the number of people in that area that are involved in the risk. Fifth one is proximity, that is closeness of relationship with the people. Sixth one is method of information dissemination on risk. Information dissemination means disclosing the secret information to others. So it is the one kind of perception of risk. So there are different types of risk. The first one is the personal risk. Now personal risk is the chance of something happening that will have an impact on personal values. That is, it is the exposure to financial loss resulting from premature death or disability. Now suppose if a person is a lone earner in a family, now if the person dies or he may have a disability, so the loan income will be will cause a financial loss to the entire family. So this is the personal risk. So due to the personal risk, the family may cause an financial loss. Now, to assess this personal risk, there are various methods. First one is assessing the voluntary activities. Example, using a life insurance policy. Second one is assessing the degree of occupational hazard. Example, dust or radiation. Then what is effect on the health of the lone person. Third one is loss of senses such as eyes, ears and loss of limbs. Fourth one, loss of earning capability. Now if the lone person has lost the capability of earning due to physical disability, or physical disability means he may be get handicapped. Public risk. Now public risk is a chance of something happening which will have impact on the public values. Now the assessment of public risk is very simple when compared to the personal risk. Now how the public risk will be analyzed is, first one, loss or reduction in future income or earning capacity. So if the person who is not able to earn due to loss of limbs or their capability. Second one is cost associated with the accident, which includes transplantation or reinforcement of body part limbs. Now if a lone person is caused with an accident, so there will be a number of cost required for his operation or transplantation. Third one is cost of welfare. This includes rehabilitation, that is providing less demanding alternate jobs. So we have to provide the welfare, for the welfare of the person we have to provide less demanding alternate job as well as other benefits. Voluntary risk. Now, voluntary risk means it's the involvement of people in risky actions. That is, some of the people participate in the actions which may be unsafe. That is, it may harm them. So, people voluntarily themselves take part in actions knowing that that action caused them some damage. So, such a risk is called as voluntary risk. Example, people participating in bike racing and WWF. Now, there are some techniques to reduce the risk. As we know, no product is 100% safety. So, there are some techniques to at least reduce the risk or improving the safety. So, the following techniques are used to reduce the risk. First one is application of inherent safety concepts. That is, either we can use an example, LPG cylinder is provided with frame to protect the valve while handling. That is, whenever we use an LPG cylinder, each cylinder contains a valve, so to protect it from exploding. Second one, protection. That is, while using a computer, if you want to protect the data, you can use a backup for that. Third one, periodic monitoring and testing of safety system. So, example you can say periodical testing for fire extinguisher. So, fire extinguisher which is present in all the organization should be periodically tested for safety of the people. Fourth one is issue of operation manuals, training of the operating personnel. So, we have to train the people to eliminate the risk. Next up we will go for what is called as collegiality. Now collegiality means tendency to support and cooperate with the colleagues. That is, cooperation and supporting our friends or colleagues within the organization is called as collegiality. Now there are various aspects of collegiality. First one is respect to the ideas and work of others. That is, whenever our friend or colleague does some work, we have to respect his ideas as well as his work. So it will be mutually beneficial for him. Second one is commitment to moral principles. That is, you have to commit to the moral principles by behaving moral decisions, actions, goals of organizations, and values of the professional. Third one is connectedness. That means you should have a mutual understanding with your colleagues, which will avoid your egoism. Also helps for the people for their progress. Next, we go for loyalty. Now, loyalty means you can say it as a loyal. That is means being loyal or feeling strong support for someone or something. So, if a person is in some trouble, and you should provide a strong support to him and always support him. So, that is the meaning of loyal. So, loyalty can be exhibited in two senses. First one, what we called as agency loyalty. So, this loyalty, it is an obligation to fulfill his contractual duties to the employer. So whatever duties given by the employer to the employee should perform all the duties within the organization to the employer. Then the employee is said to be agency loyalty. Second one is attitude loyalty. That is concerned with attitudes, emotions, and sense of personal identity. That is willingness to meet the moral duties. So, attitude loyalty is concerned with only the person. Agency loyalty is concerned only with the organization. Next up, we will go for authority. So, as we know, every person has some authority. In an organization, some persons are given authority. So, the meaning of authority is it is used for effective transformation of decisions into actions. So, an authority should be given to a individual worker working in a group with the given responsibility. So, the authority, what it does is it fixes the responsibility to a person to do the necessary work, which helps for progress of the action. So there are two types of authority. First one is institutional authority and second one is expert. Now first one will go for institutional authority. Now this is the authority which is executed within the organization. That is, if you are working in a group, a right will be given to one of the employee to complete the task. So the employee who is given the authority has the right to perform the duties such as resource allocation, supervision, and empowering. Example, line managers and project managers. So they have the duty to make sure that the projects are completed successfully by allocating the resources to the employees as well as making the supervision. Second one is expert authority. Now expert authority is different from institutional authority. It is the possession of person having possession of special knowledge, skills and competence to perform a job. So the person will be given an expert authority only when he is having a high special knowledge as well as skills. He is also the responsible for giving advice on the jobs. So expert authority is also known as the authority of leadership. Confidentiality. Now, confidentiality means keeping the information secret. That is, not revealing the some information to anyone else, and keeping the information within the employer as well as client. So, it is one of the important aspects of a teamwork. So, when you are working in a team, the employer should not disclose any confidential, that is, disclose any secret information to others. Now there are some various factors that justify the confidentiality. The various factors are respect for autonomy, respect for promises, trustworthiness, respect for public welfare. Now first one will go for is called as respect for autonomy. So respect for autonomy means respecting the self-determination of individuals and organizations so that we can have a authentic control over the personal information. Second one is respect for promises. Means if you are given if a promise is made between employer and the employer to not reveal the information, so he should keep that promise so that he should not reveal any information to other employers. That is, employees should not disclose the promise given to the employers. Third one is trustworthiness. Now this type of factors are maintained by the lawyers, judges, accountants, etc. So it is necessary by done by the lawyers and judges to develop the confidence and welfare of the organization. Fourth one is respect for public welfare. Now teens are very important in identifying the relationship in professional transaction. Now suppose if a patient goes to the doctor, so he should keep a trust in them only if the doctor does not reveals the confidentiality of the problems of the patient. Only when patient comes to know that the doctor is not revealing any confidentiality information about himself, so he can develop a trust in him and he will be free to reveal the more problems and personal information. Last topic is occupational crime. So, what is the meaning of occupational crime? Now, an occupational crime may be committed by the following ways. So, it may be wrong actions of a person through one's lawful employment, or you can say crime by an employer to promote one's own interest. That is, crime conducted within the organization by the employer when he is some occupation, or you can say theft or regular theft done by the employer. These are also called as white collar crimes. Now the examples of occupational crimes are, first one is price fixing, that is fixing the bidding rate of the companies in collision with other companies. So whenever there is an auction, so various companies will perform the bidding for the contract. So that is one of the example of occupational crime. It is called as price fixing. Second one is industrial espionage, or you can say spying. Spying means simply spying for personal or company benefits. Now suppose if a person is working in a company, if he is working as a spy, he can reveal some company's information to another company. So he will be called as a spy. So this is also one type of occupational crime.